So hi everyone, I'm Lisa from ProWritingAid, and thank you so much for being here for another session in the ProWritingAid series for writers. My guest today is author, screenwriter, and story development consultant Jeff Lyons. So Jeff has more than 25 years experience in the publishing and entertainment industries, and his two books, Anatomy of a Promised Line and Rapid Story Development, have helped many authors on their way to becoming published authors. So Jeff, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is always so much fun. I appreciate this.
Great, good. So the format for tonight is I'm going to hand over to Jeff. He's got some training that he's going to take us through, just all about the key points for Loglines. And then we have two brave volunteers who are waiting in the wings, and they're going to let Jeff live workshop their Loglines so we can all watch that happen. And then we'll have questions at the end. So I'll probably get you to save most of your questions to the end, but if you want to put them in the Q&A box as we go along, just while you're thinking of them, then that's fine too. So Jeff, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and you can share your screen.
Well, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate you taking the time, and everybody's busy with their lives, I know, and but this is going to be, I think, worth your time. What I'm going to show you, and I'm going to blow through this pretty quickly because there's nothing worse than sitting through a PowerPoint presentation. But what I'm going to show you is a way to, crack a very tough nut that a lot of people have a hard time with. Screenwriters know about Loglines. It's part of the screenwriting zeitgeist. It's part of that world, and so you hear about it all the time. Novelists and creative nonfiction writers, not so much. And certainly when they hear about it, they're hearing all sorts of different definitions about what it is and all of that. We're going to talk about the nuts and the bolts of what a logline is, but also we're also going to get into, why it's important and why you have to have one. But before we do that, I want to tell you a little story that illustrates the reality of this little tool. Last summer, I was invited to speak to the Dallas-Fort Worth Writers Conference, one of the larger writing conferences in the South, United States. And at the end of every conference, they have this little game they call the Gong Show. And everybody gathers in the ballrooms, many hundreds of people. And they've got 5 or 6 editors up on stage from publishing companies with gongs in front of them. And then everybody in the audience is told if they want, they can pitch their book. And the moderator then reads the pitches. And the editors then hit the gong every time they hear a red flag or something that's going to make them stop reading the pitch. And when you get 3 gongs, you're out. Almost everyone gets 3 gongs fairly quickly. And then what's nice about it is, they then explain, why they gonged. And you're going to see when we get to the 7 mistakes people make with Loglines, all of those are the reasons why these editors gonged out these things. They are very, very, very clear when they get a pitch from a writer in an email or in a form or whatever it is, whatever form that pitch takes from their agent or anything. They want that logline up front, and it has got to grab them. It has got to pull them in. It has got to tell them enough to make them want to say, okay, tell me more. And then that's a whole other problem of, what do you give them next kind of a thing. But this logline thing isn't just a throwaway. It is essential because it is your toe in the door with an agent or with an editor or with some publishing rep at a conference. When you sit down in front of somebody and you got to do your little pitch, you got to be on target. Like I say, screenwriters do this all the time when they're pitching their movies. Novelists usually do this remotely. They do it through email and things like that. So it's not as personal sometimes. But the tool is the tool, and it is an essential one. What I'm going to show you is part of a workflow that I teach people, because one of the biggest problems writers have is, where do you start and how do you get to You know, what we're taught in the creative writing world, especially as novelists or creative nonfiction writers, and that includes memoirs, biographies, that sort of thing. Just write, because stories tell themselves, right? Characters tell their own stories. Your job as a writer is to hook in and get into the flow and get the creativity flow and just write. Don't edit. Don't censor yourself. Just write, because that's what writers do, right? Wrong. For 99.9% of people, this is the worst possible writing advice, because they do not have a very essential skill, or if they have it, it's not developed, which is the story skill. Telling a story and writing a story are two completely different things. I talked about this in my first book, Anatomy of a Premise Line, of why it's important to understand that the function of telling a story and then going and writing it are completely unrelated. Storytelling and writing have nothing to do with one another. They're two separate talents. They're two separate skill sets. And the one that most people are missing is the story side of the house. And so what I focus on in all my work with clients and with production companies and publishers is helping writers develop that story side, so that when they decide to start pages, they're not going to go off into the writing floodplain and get lower or lost in the writing woods. This is one of the reasons NaNoWriMo, the National Novel Writing Month phenom, drives me absolutely bananas, because at the end of that process, almost everybody who does that is going to end up with 50,000 words of word salad. And now they're going to have to go back, follow the breadcrumbs to figure out where the wheels came off the cart. And everybody ends up in the exact same place. Me, you, everybody, at the level of the premise itself. And premise development is next to logline development. Premise development is even more important because it is what helps you find the structure of your book, to know that you have something you can actually depend upon and is going to have legs and is going to work as a novel. So you see the premise line here. This is part of that workflow I'm telling you about. We're going to go over a hook here and log line here, but the pieces we're not going to talk about, which are also part of this workflow, are how to develop a premise line, then how to move that into synopsis writing or an outline, and then from there, then you feel you can start pages with some real high confidence that you're not going to get lost in the story woods. And this workflow works really well for the majority of people that don't have that story gene, I call it. It gives you a very, very clear path from idea to pages, okay? We're going to talk about the hook and the log line. The hook, everybody, you kind of intuitively know what the hook is. I'm not going to have to go into too much about this. It's the sexy, it's the big concept, it's the high concept. In requirements, in books in print, in writer's market and other places where you see agents or editors saying what their requirements are for their material, they'll often say, I want a high concept story, but they never talk about what that means. And when you get that hook, you've nailed the high concept. High concept is a complicated idea. It's not just, toothpaste on a motorcycle. It's a continuum of qualities that I talk about that tell you to the degree to which you have a high concept idea. Every idea has a high concept to some degree, but some are low concept than others. It's important to know what you have so that you know who to take your story to and who not to take your story to. So it's an important tool for you to understand, but it's also, when you get it, you've got the hook. You've got that idea. You've got that image that is exciting to you about what your story is going to be. And it is an essential part of a log line. And when you get your log line right, the hook is going to be implicit. Here are some examples of what I mean by a hook, okay? The TV series Jessica Jones, which I highly, highly, highly recommend you watch the first season. Second season kind of fell on its face. First season, brilliant, brilliant TV writing, brilliant storytelling, period. But the high concept is this: a self-hating super fights another super capable of enslaving and destroying her. You don't know what the story is. You kind of get a sense of what the adventure is going to be, but you don't really know anything about the protagonist. You don't know who the bad guy is. You don't know really what's going on. It's just, boom. That's the high concept. Okay, transparent. A lifetime closeted transsexual father comes out to his family as trans. Okay, boom. You don't know anything about the family. You don't know anything about anything, really. Just what the hook's going to be. Hunger Games. A despondent teen takes on the powers that be in a death competition, catalyzing massive social revolts. A little long, I admit. But that's the essence of what's going to hook people into the story. And the last one is one I just kind of made up. You know, out-of-town couple gets stranded in a small town, discover it's run by aliens. You know, you don't even know whether it's a drama or a comedy. It sounds a little comedic here, but it could be a drama. It could be a horror story. You never know. So that's what the hook is. And you want this to be implicit in your logline. So here's, I've got to look over my camera here, so I'm going to have to move a little bit. Sorry. My logistics here are kind of screwed up. So here is what a logline is, just so you have some reference. Oh, I'm going to give all of you this PowerPoint presentation. So you've got this, as well as the recording if you want to come back and look at it. But I'm going to give this to you as a PDF so you can have this for reference, okay? The logline isn't your story, but it's the narrative essence of your story. It conveys that high concept, the tone of your story, the core emotion of your premise, and does all this in a short sentence. Maybe two, but try to get it in one. And this is essential to understand. The logline is the essence of your story. It is not, you're not telling your story. And this is the biggest error that people make when they do their loglines. They don't know when to shut up. They just write, and they write, and they write. So this, the method I'm going to show you helps you keep this essential, okay? And this is why you need one, because of query letters, you're pitching, and it is actually a development tool for you in your development process. Okay, this is not a luxury. And that's the one thing I really want to convey in this talk is that this is not something you kind of, it's a nice to have. It's a must-have tool. It's essential because, and it's also important to know that the logline isn't enough to sell your book. You're going to have to deliver some other things like a synopsis and a premise line and things like that. But this, like I said, is your first impression, and you don't get to make that more than once usually. So that's why this is an essential tool. And this from an editor friend of mine who's a very well-placed editor, lots of big publishing company experience. And this is what she said about what happens when someone comes in with a weakly or badly written logline. It tells her a lot about their experience level. And if they can't focus their logline and tell what they need to tell in that logline, they're going to have a heck of a time probably when it comes to actually pitching a longer presentation for the story. They're probably going to be very unfocused there as well. So she tends to hit that gong right away if the logline's not working for her. So this is from a very serious editor who's got a lot of experience. So this is something they take very seriously. Here are the most common mistakes people make with loglines. They mistake them for hooks. They're not hooks or taglines. Taglines are out of the marketing department. Okay, just when you thought it was safe to go back into the water, that's a tagline. But you all know what I'm talking about, right? Jaws. You know, in space, no one can hear you scream. Okay, doesn't tell you anything about the story, but that's the tagline for first Alien movie. Okay, taglines are marketing tools. People think loglines have that function. That's a big mistake. They mistake platitudes for story. They'll have our hero, one of the really good guys in the story, you know, or the down and out alcoholic lawyer who's trying to find his way back in his life. They fall back on standard tropes and memes and think they're actually conveying something about their story. And these kinds of platitudes and things only disconnect the editor or the reader from what they're doing. They also fall back on authorial intrusion. Intrusive like a kitty cat, where the author will jump into the log line and say, will our hero really make the grade? Is our heroine really going to get off those train tracks? Let's stop and see. You know, and I've seen this in log lines. You don't want yourself in this at all. Don't break that wall. Okay, don't break that wall as the narrator. Just tell the log line. Don't intrude. They explain. This is very similar to, they never get to the good stuff at the end here. But it's, people just go on and on and on with backstory, context. Let me tell you about their childhood because you really can't understand the story or even this little pitch unless you understand what happened to them when they were 5. And they go off on all these crazy tangents to explain all the details so that you can appreciate the depth and how wonderful this is going to be. And by the time they get to the third sentence of all of that exposition, they're in the round file. So the log line cannot have explanations in it. They don't leverage language. If you're telling a horror story, you want to use language that conveys that. Use language to your advantage so that the tone of the story and the genre of the story are really clear upon the reading. Language here is your friend. Exposition is not, but language is. Then we get to the good stuff, is pretty much the same as explain. And the main thing is they mistake it for a premise line. A premise line, that's a whole other workshop, is your entire story, the entire structure of your story in 1 or 2 sentences. It's fairly long, but it actually isn't, it's not just a taste. You actually tell that beginning, middle, and end. And people think that's what the log line is. That's not. Premise lines and log lines are very, very different, but they're very self-supporting. Okay? All right. Here is what you want in a log line. And you basically want them in this order. You can mix them up a little bit, but basically you want to write your log line in this order. This structure has come to me down from experience working mostly with TV writers and film writers, and having been through lots of pitches and knowing what producers and editors want and what they respond to. In Texas, I took some of the log lines that were given, rearranged them in this order using these components, and the editor said, oh, I wish they'd done that. They would have gotten to step 2. So this is a very battle-tested structure for a log line. So I know this works in the real world. This isn't just something Jeff Lyons, picked up off the grass. Okay. What's the world? Right out of the chute, establish the world. Dystopia, family, dysfunctional family. You don't have to go wax, forever and talk forever. Just a couple of words to establish what that is. Okay. Next, you introduce the protagonist, the main character, and you give some sense of what their issue is. What are they struggling against personally? Now, maybe they're alcoholic, maybe they're a drug addict, maybe they've been abused. If that's all that you can get to, that's fine. Just give some sense of what their personal angst is about in the story. Okay, what are they grappling with personally? But who are they? And you never name them. You don't use their name. You say the dentist, okay, or whatever. You don't name characters by name in these pitches. Then you want to give a sense of what either their goal is, their specific goal that they're going after in the show or in the book, and or what the challenges they're facing. What is it they're up against? And then establish who the opponent is. The opponent is not going to be nature. It's not going to be God. It's not going to be themselves. The opponent needs to be another human being. It needs to be a personal opponent, if possible, someone who knows the protagonist. Those are the best opponents. They don't have to be, but they do need to be personified. Even if it's the evil forces, there needs to be a face attached to those forces. Who's the focus? All good stories have very identifiable oppositions. They're not diffuse and abstract. So you establish the world, you know who your protagonist is, what they're kind of dealing with, who they are as a person a little bit, what they want, what's their goal. But most often you won't do that. You'll do what they're up against. Okay, they've got to find the terrorists. They've got to get the money, whatever they've got to do. Then at the end of this, you establish what their choice or decision is going to be and what action they're going to take. You do not end your log line with, and then a really cool thing's going to happen at the end. And I've seen this too. No, ideally what you want is to leave the reader thinking, oh my gosh, what are they going to do? The essential same thing as wanting to turn the page. And you do that by giving your protagonist a difficult decision or choice to make between two things. They have to choose this or this, and neither one of them sounds all that great. Then you leave them hanging, but you know they're going to have to take some kind of action. And that is propelling the reader forward. Creates tension, creates suspense, hooks them, okay? The hook will be implicit when you nail these pieces. And it's very mechanical, I understand, but this is exactly the order in which you do these things. I'm going to show you some examples. And this is what we're going to do with our volunteers. We're going to go through these. What happens, and be prepared for this, Julie and Wendy, is if you start this before you've done your premise, before you really know your story, you're not going to have some of these pieces figured out. And starting the log line before you know really what your structure is all about is going to reveal to you what you're missing. Oh, I don't know who my opponent is. Oh, I don't really know what their problem is. Oh, I don't even know who my protagonist is. Okay, this process will sometimes help you in that regard if you start too early by showing you that you're really not ready yet. And so we may actually find some of these issues in some of these samples we're going to look at. Okay, so let's look at some examples, and then we're going to dive in. Okay, a little longer than I wanted to here, but that's okay. Okay, so Jessica Jones. Okay, for those of you who haven't seen the show, here's the pitch. Okay. In a world where supers hide in the shadows, there's the world. A woman with super strength and anger issues. There's a protagonist and her issue. And you know, if you watch the show, she's one pissed off gal. Discovers a superhero who once forced her to kill against her will is still alive. There is the challenge she's facing. And she has to make a decision whether to run or stand her ground and kill him. That doesn't tell you the story, but it tells you the essence of what this is going to be about in the first season, actually, not just the pilot, but this is the pilot for the show. And you see all those pieces in that order. Here's Transparent, the show that was on Prime. A divorced father with painful secret. Okay, we're a little out of order here, but this is the protagonist and his problem, okay? Negotiating a broken, dysfunctional family, there's the world. Ways, staying closeted or being open. So he's got a choice decision to make, and now we're saying what the action is. He decides to come out as trans to his family. Boom, that's all we got. That's all we need. Hunger Games. Okay, this is a little longer, but it gets the job done. A dystopian world where games of life and death, right? There's the world. A rebellious teenage girl. There we go. You know, typical YA novel, right? Teenage girl, the rebellious teenage girl. Volunteers to play, quote unquote, in order to save her sister. There's the challenge. And then she finds herself in opposition to the powers that be. So we know what the opposition is. And she decides to cooperate to cover up her own escape. So all the elements are there. It's a little longer, a little more convoluted, but this is not going to get you gonged, I don't think. If they gong this, it's going to be because they're just not interested in the genre or they don't like the story. You know, you have no real control over that, but you do have control over whether or not you're going to get read. Okay? So these are examples of what you want to do, and you can see here all the pieces are in place. Okay, so here's the basic strategy for when you do these things on your own. Is first get the structure. Okay, identify the pieces. Know that you've got all the components to play with. Okay, then write it out in that order, and then go back and start wordsmithing it. Okay, getting the words right. You know, cutting. And then once you get the words right and you're saying what you know you want to say, then go in and start working on tone and genre and making sure that the language that you wordsmith actually reflects the tone of what you're trying to get across. You know, and then you're always cutting. You know, you want to get down to, you know, no more than two and a half lines of text. You know, if you can do that. If you got to go 3, okay, go 3. But you know what I'm saying. But this is the basic approach. Structure it, wordsmith it, get the tone genre right with some real targeted wordsmithing, and then cut. Okay? So let me stop the share here. So that's the basic process, and that's what constitutes a logline.
Okay, that sounds great. Are we ready to bring in our brave volunteers?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
we are ready.
Okay, great.
Let me switch back to Word here.
Okay, Julie. There's Julie. There we go. Hi, Julie.
Hi.
All right, so Jeff is just going to get Word up on his screen.
Okay. I can see enormous holes in my project already.
Yeah,
well, that's good. That's a sign that you're learning.
You will. You absolutely will. So don't even stress it.
Okay.
This is not something you knock out in 10 minutes. You know, a premise line, just as an example, which I literally wrote the book on, takes me 8 weeks or more to get right. That's how hard this is. This is writing is so hard. It's hard to do. But when you've got some guidance and some guidelines and some strategy, you need the tools. You know, with the right tools, like I say, with the right tools, you can write anything. You know, this is a tool, and anybody can learn this. And you learn it by doing, over and over on all your stories. And and then always take these before you send it to anybody. Get 2 or 3 or 4 people who you trust, who are going to tell you the truth, not what you want to hear. You know, don't give this to your mother. I'm sure she's wonderful, but you want to give this to people who are going to tell you the truth, not what you want to hear. And unit test this stuff. Give them some guidance. Here's what I want to know. Did I do it? And you're going to get wonky answers here and there, but listen for the gems, and then you'll have a much safer process with this. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to move my camera a little bit here. Sorry, I got to do this. Okay, now I can see. Okay. So Lisa.
Julie.
Julie. I'm sorry, Julie. What is it? Julie. Okay. So sometimes traveling to the ends of the earth is not quite far enough. I really like that. But it's gravy. It's not essential. Mm-hmm. Okay. But it is really nice. I like that. And you would want this in your synopsis.
Okay.
Okay. Sally Rutherford has decided that she needs a break. A trip to Scotland is the way forward. The place and the people look quite attractive, and everyone has lovely accents. I would agree. She's a bird watcher and has booked a trip for a lifetime on a ship traveling around the Western Isles. The ultimate goal is to reach the birder's paradise of St. Kilda. What could possibly go wrong? It's a great place for a midlife crisis if she ever manages to reach 80. Okay. Lots of really great elements there. Okay, but you can see how this is going off into the wilderness already, right?
Yeah.
So, it's the world.
What's the world? The world she's coming from is a very drab grey London. The world she's going to.
Where's the world she's actually going to be in?
Okay, it's going to be Scotland. It's the islands. It's the sea.
Okay. There's the world. It's already got a romanticism about it.
Okay.
Would you agree?
Yep.
Yes, it's conveyed in those few words, okay? Protagonist.
Protagonist, you don't want names, so middle-aged librarian.
Kind of says it all.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. I don't think we need much more explanation than that.
Okay, what's
the goal?
Her goal is to get to the birder's paradise, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. See how bad a speller I am. What's her challenge? What is she up against? Is there a ticking clock?
There's a ticking clock because she can only afford the one holiday. She has to get there then.
And then once she's there, what is she going to accomplish?
I'm going to come up with the bit that you didn't want, which of course her biggest foil in this is herself. She needs to find out more about herself. The island actually isn't the answer.
Well, that's okay. That's actually okay to have her. In a sense, every character you ever write in any story that has any drama in it, they're going to be always up against themselves in that they're operating from this thing I call the moral blind spot. Mm-hmm. They're acting badly in the world in some way. Doesn't mean they're sticking needles in the pins of puppies and things like that. But they're acting in a way that makes them inaccessible or not their full authentic self, okay? So every character is going to have to overcome that to change in the end. But there's got to be some pushback in the world. There's got to be somebody who's going to get in the way of her getting to birder's paradise. There's got to be, even if it's a series of things, there needs to be some pushback from the world that is getting in her way, that's distracting her, but in a very particular way that's attractive to her to be attracted to. In other words, Joe the bank robber, when the knock comes on the door and they say, come on, Joe, let's go rob a bank, that's going to appeal to him because he's a bank robber. But if a Hare Krishna guy opens the door and says, here's some flowers, buy this, he's not going to be interested in that because he has no connection whatsoever to, there's no moth to the flame there. There's no attractor. Okay. So this is hard stuff. This is story development now. So you've got to get this to really be compelling for readers. You've got to find, she can't get to birder's paradise until the end. So what is she going to be doing in the meantime?
She gets to birder's paradise in the middle.
Yeah, no, that can't, no.
That can't happen? No?
That can't happen, no.
Oh, okay.
If that's her goal, she can't get it until the end of the story. Because when she
does... The goal turns out to be a dud. It's not what she thought it was. We've got to find a good one before it ends.
That's okay. But she can't realize that until the end of the story. That's her change.
Okay.
Once she gets that, the story's over. And everything else is anticlimactic.
That probably explains why I'm having trouble doing the final third.
Yeah. But that's the good news because now you get to build a really compelling middle. I'm actually teaching a workshop on this end of the month called How to Avoid the Mushy Middle.
There you go.
But now we're uncovering some structural issues here. Okay. So what you really need, and I'll send this document along. Well, actually, it's in the recording, so it's here. You need a sense of what her challenge.
She's got a challenge from one of the other characters who doesn't actually want her on the ship. She's a liability. Who wants her off quite early.
There is the opponent. Why? Why does she want her off the ship?
Because a captain in charge of a ship has to make sure if you're going to that place that everybody's capable of doing it.
So the captain is this person.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So here we have this is. Do they end up being friends at the end?
I'm hoping for a series out of it. So at the end of the first book, no. It's left hanging.
Oh, you just complicated things tremendously. Okay.
I'm not going to say yes, they become friends.
No, that's okay. That's okay. In a series, every book has to stand alone, so we're okay.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to develop a log line for your series.
Yep.
And a premise line for your series.
Yep.
That's part of that pitching process, okay? Every book is going to have to stand alone, though, which is really a challenge. And in series, the characters don't change because they can't. As soon as they change, the series is over. Homer Simpson can't ever grow up. Okay? He has moments where it's like, oh my God, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I've got a family that loves me. I've got a job. Life can't get any better than this. He has these moments, right? But then he goes off and he eats a stick of butter with, wrapped in, bacon. So it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And he never, ever changes. He can't. The show's over. Okay. Same thing in a series. Any good series will not have that character changes to the very last book of the series. Okay. That's just, but in this book, you've got the opponent is the captain. This is great. What's the choice decision she's going to have to make?
It's now going to have to change if the getting to the island isn't at the end, because the change she makes at the end is the fact that she does not want to go back to real life. She doesn't want to leave Scotland.
Okay, so her choice is clear. Go home.
Or don't go home, and she doesn't want to go home.
Go to paradise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but the paradise is becoming more and more of a challenge for her. It's harder and harder because obstacles are being thrown up. There you are. That's your middle. She gets obsessive and pushes and finally gets what she wants, but what does she have to do to get it? That's what's interesting. What line is she going to cross? That's what you want to convey in the very end of your log line. That choice is, do I go home to what I had, or do I step up and do this? Gosh, what's she going to do? You don't want to say that in the log line, but that's what you want to leave the reader with. Okay. Does this make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
This just identifying these pieces will help you write this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
But you need a little bit clearer challenge here. What is the challenge? Is it ageism? What is it? That kind of a thing. Okay. We need to move on to the next one.
We better move on. Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you.
But you see the process. Okay.
Okay.
Wendy. Okay. Now this is based on a true story. So, the true story of a nuclear medicine technologist's journey of faith as she speaks up to protect hospital patients only to suffer retaliation and a legal battle in her quest to fix the unsafe patient practice. Okay. This could be a movie. This has drama all over it. Okay. So, but I'm approaching this from a story perspective. Not that this is your life. So if I step over, your lifeline here, so to speak, don't get too upset because I may go somewhere you don't want to go with this. Okay, so what's the world?
Well, the world is my 27-year marriage was ending and I needed
Nope.
to support myself.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Well, I moved 300 miles away.
Think about what you're trying to, what you're telling, what it is you're trying to establish here in terms of this character. What's her world that she's in? Not where she came
I
from.
was a divorced woman living alone.
Nope.
No.
How
In
about
West Virginia.
How about this? Whatever. Okay, you're dealing. She's up against a dangerous environment.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. All the rest of it's true, but that's not what you're telling. That's not part of this pitch. She's entering a world of legal and political and medical corruption. Right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. But do you see where I went and where you were going? How long would it have taken you to figure that out? I don't know. But it's the lesson in this little piece right here is always think in your log line in terms of what is the petri dish this character is going to be in for the bulk of the story itself in terms of real-time action. Okay, not what their emotional life is or where they came from. That's all great backstory, but that's not the story that you're in, okay? So, protagonist is a medical professional. What's her issue? This is a journey of faith. So that says to me that there's some crisis of faith here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What is she doubting?
Well, I took the stand on unsafe patient practice in part because my conscience dictated it, but also I believed that God was telling me now's the time to take a stand.
Was there reluctance to take a stand?
I didn't want to have to sacrifice my job, but I could not live with myself if a patient was injured and I did not take action.
Okay, so she is just so we can kind of get to it, she's doubting herself on some level because you're not taking action right away, right? So it's like there's this, what are the consequences going to be? I don't know. Okay. The goal. The goal obviously is to
protect the patients.
Is to expose corruption. And who was the one person who wanted to stop you?
The main person was my supervisor.
Okay, evil supervisor. Okay. And you already said, what's choice decision? You actually said it a little earlier.
Yes, it was either stand up to protect the patients or protect my job.
Fantastic. Just looking at these pieces, does that tell you more about what the story is than what you got?
Yes. Well, I know my story.
You know your story, but now I know your story. Now I have a sense of what journey of faith means. That's a platitude. Okay, that doesn't tell us anything. But someone who's doubting whether she should step up or not, this is a woman who's going to learn that it's okay to be wrong in the pursuit of what is right, which is the definition of courage. Okay, it's This is a dramatic story that's got all the great pieces you need to tell a great dramatic story. You're home. You've got it.
Thank
We
you.
don't have time to actually start working on the wordsmithing, but these are the pieces. Doesn't mean you can't have other evil people, you know, like the lawyers and all that kind of stuff. Everyone loves to hate the lawyers until they need one, of course. But you know what I'm saying, okay? But you see what we did, just identifying the pieces. But you can also see where you can go off on the rails by not knowing what is the world and thinking, I've got to tell my story. I got to fill in the details. You got to understand that, you know, I was in a dysfunctional marriage and divorced and, you know, whatever. No, I don't. I need to know where you were in the heat of battle. What's that world? Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Great
great.
job.
So Jeff,
Totally.
I'm gonna stop you here because we're running out of time. I've got some questions I want to get through, and then there's a couple other people that have put theirs forward. So maybe we're planning to end at 8. Let's try and get through some questions, and then if people want to stick around and watch a bit more workshopping, do you want to do that?
Not a problem.
Okay. Wendy, thank you so much. I'm gonna hide you again, but I really appreciate you putting your work out. Thank you. Okay, so I've got questions for you. Are you ready?
Go.
A couple of people are saying you don't want to reveal the solution or the conclusion of the plot. You don't want to see how it ends. Is that right?
No.
You don't want to give away the ending.
Well, only if giving away the ending helps you hook the reader. This is a mistake a lot of people make when they're pitching stories. Think about it. If I'm an editor and you're coming to me saying, I want you to publish my book, but I'm not going to tell you how it ends. How do you think I'm going to feel? Is it really that precious? No. Tell me the damn story.
Yeah.
Tell me how it ends.
And that's the difference. This is for an editor, isn't it? This isn't for, you're not trying to get your readers, you're trying to present this to your editor.
This isn't marketing copy for the blurb. This is you're trying to get someone to commit to giving you money. Okay? They have to know what they're buying. They don't have time to second guess and think, oh yeah, what a clever way to end that. Boy, am I hooked, because I don't know how the story ends. Yeah. No, they're gonna be pissed off and they're gonna not respond to your email. And this is a writing tool for you. Don't do this to yourself.
Yeah, I think I've really seen how valuable this can be to try and distill everything, your whole storyline, everything you're trying to say down. So easy to see what's missing.
And if you don't ever get to that point, that is part of this process too. It identifies stories that need to be put back on the back burner. Move on to something else. If you can't figure this out in a period of time that is reasonable to you, don't spin your wheels. Move on to something else. That's also what comes out of this process.
Okay. Eileen says, can there be 2 different protagonists with different goals?
The danger in a novel, you can get away with that because you have the story real estate to tell 2 separate stories. In a movie, for those screenwriters there, no, because you don't have the real estate. You've got 110 minutes. You can't tell 2 good stories in 110 pages. Okay, it used to be 120, now it's 110. In a novel, you can write until you're blue in the face. The danger you have, though, is always keeping it, is you have the danger of splitting your story. Okay, who is the reader going to root for? You know, one of those 2 people needs to be more central than the other. In a love story, you've got 2 protagonists, but one's the central opponent and the other is the protagonist. You know, in Harry Met Sally, they were both the protagonists of the show, but it was more his story than her story. Okay, so it's important to have a dramatic focus for your reader. You know, but in a novel, you can get away with that. But they've got to. So
in your logline, do you need to just focus on the one?
You really should. Yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard to do that. You really need to focus on, because they're going to have a hard time wrapping their head around how that's going to work.
Okay.
You have to be more strategic.
Okay. Can the opponent be a force or an organization rather than a single villain? And for mystery stories, do you want to give away the murderer?
No, you don't have to. You don't have to give away the murderer. No, giving away the ending is really important here. I tend not to do that myself. I much prefer to leave that reader with a sense of what their impossible decision is, because that creates the tension and the suspense. You know, unless your story is where the world's going to be destroyed or not, then yeah, you want to kind of, you know, telegraph that. But it's always good to leave them hanging with, oh yeah, here's the choice, here's the impossible choice they're facing. Okay, that's compelling, you know. But the opposition, think about it. The opposition, if the opposition's a force, how is that opposition going to go after the protagonist? How is that opposition going to push their emotional buttons? In a city where New York City is the opponent, how is it going to change? What's it going to do? It's not, it's world, it's context. It's not a character, okay? You need personified characters representing these evil forces or the good forces or whatever they are, because the reader's going to want to have a focus, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. If you're writing a trilogy, do you need one logline per book, or do you want it to cover the whole trilogy?
Yes, you need, every book stands alone, and you need one for the series, ideally, because someone's going to ask you for that. What's the series about?
Okay.
And those are really hard. And you also want to develop premise lines for each of the books and for the series. This is what I do with people with TV shows, with TV series. Every episode has a log line. The series has a log line.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. That lets you look a bit narrower and then go a bit wider.
Yeah.
Probably do the same sort of thing for each chapter, really, if you went deep into it.
That's going to drive you crazy.
Brad wants to know if this should be applied to nonfiction work as well.
Absolutely. Story is story. It doesn't matter whether it happened or not.
Yeah, a good nonfiction book will still have a world, will still have a protagonist, will still have
You still want to have those basic story structure components.
Yeah, otherwise
you're telling a story. Yeah. I mean, it's not, this isn't good for a math book, but it'd be great for a biography or a, you know, yeah.
Okay. Liz says that in one of our other sessions, she got the advice that you shouldn't name your character, or that you should name your characters in your log line.
Okay. all the editors I've talked to, that doesn't add anything for them. You know, that the protagonist's name is Bob is completely irrelevant. You know, what Bob does or who, you know, what Bob's issue is, that's they care about that.
Yeah, I guess like who and what his role in the world is gives a bit more information than just Bob. Bob could be anything.
Yeah,
so if you say dentist or a mountain climber or whatever, there's information in that.
And
sorry, Liz, if we're confusing you.
And for every piece of advice I'm giving you, you're going to get 10 people out there that say I'm full of you know what. So you have to make the decision about what is going to work for you.
Okay.
I have no cookie cutters here. I have no magic bullets. I've got a strategy that works, that I know works, but you don't know me from a steak sandwich. So,
okay. Polly says, when you say world, do you mean genre? Is that what is going to give it? Are you giving that information?
No. Well, the genre, it could be science fiction, but you don't want to say in a world of science fiction. No, you want in dystopia Los Angeles, 2087, that's you want to convey some sort of an image of what is this world that they're in. Genre will be implicit in that. Yeah,
so your logline should give a sense of the genre that you're in. Like if people read your,
ideally,
they should know where you'll be in the bookshelf.
Yeah, you want a sense of the genre and you want a sense of the tone. Is this comedic? Is it dramatic? Is it a little of both? That's where the wordsmithing comes in.
Okay. Patrick says, is this basically your elevator pitch to a editor?
It's part of the elevator pitch. The premise line is really your elevator pitch. That's when you're on the 10th floor and the person turns to you and says, "Oh, I bet you're a writer. What are you working on?" And then you have 10 floors to pitch your story. That's where you want to give them the beginning, the middle, and the end, which is the premise line. Okay. But you can also give them that log line as well. It's part of the elevator pitch.
Okay. Someone says, can it be 2 sentences, or should you aim for 1 long sentence?
It can be 2. Sometimes 2 is better because it reads better. Yeah, it flows better as as boom boom. A long sentence can sometimes get a little too long. So you just have to use your own sense of rhythm and pacing to know whether you hit it or not.
Okay, a couple people are asking if you want to do another session to help people develop their premise line.
Yes.
Let's talk after this. Okay, great.
It's hugely important. Hugely important.
Okay. Okay, well, we're at our hour, so I'm just going to say thank you to everyone who came. I'm going to drop a couple more links so that you've got our upcoming webinars. Oops, sorry. And so that you've got a link to Jeff's website, storygeeks.com. So if anybody needs to go, that's fine. And then we've got a couple more Loglines here. Do you want to have a look and just give some quick feedback?
Sure.
Yeah? Okay.
Thank you all.
So what's the best way to do it? Shall I just read them out loud to you?
Let me go back to my document. Yeah. So read it slowly.
Oh, there's loads of people saying thank you and that this was excellent. So just so you don't miss that, Jeff, there's lots of really nice comments in the chat for you. Okay, so so I've got Joe. Joe says, shall I just read it out loud to you? It says, a week before graduating from Rosecliff College in Newport, Rhode Island, a beautiful but anxious young woman takes a chance at romance with a handsome piano player before facing the realities at home involving her hilarious brother with special needs and the parents who can no longer care for him.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I feel like it's got a lot of those components.
Yeah, it's got all the elements a lot of the elements are there for sure. The world, I immediately get this, John Irving, New Hampshire kind of feel.
Yeah.
Collegiate, yeah, so the world's really clear. And the protagonist, describe her again. I forget.
A beautiful but anxious young woman.
Okay, so an anxious. How young is she? Do we know?
Well, she's just about to graduate from college.
Okay, so an anxiety-ridden college grad or near grad or something like that. You want to give a sense of what her situation is. So we're going to want to know what the anxiety is about. That's so we want to establish that she's anxious. And that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Joe. I'm going to. Oh, where did you go? I'm going to click allow to talk. Do you want to answer? Oh, you keep disappearing on me.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, Joe, hi.
Hey.
Yeah. Hi.
So we've got the world, and so what's her situation? So is she graduating? Is she about to graduate?
Yeah, she's a week away from graduation.
Okay, so protagonist.
Basically, it's senior week leading up to graduation.
Okay, so anxiety-ridden college senior. Okay, this is perfect. And so okay, so what's her goal?
So she wants to have an independent life of her own, but she also has responsibilities back home for her autistic brother, and her parents can no longer take care of him.
Okay, I'm gonna interrupt you a lot, so just get used to it.
Sure.
How would she know she has an independent life if it came up and introduced itself?
Well, basically, she wants to carve out her own life where she can set her own goals.
Okay, you can't say that. You've got to be very clear about how she will know when she has it. What does it look like
Okay.
for her?
Okay.
I'm a businesswoman. I'm a sculptor. I'm gonna, you know, drive a cab.
Okay. Yeah. Well, she wants to be a psychologist. She also is meeting, you know, the man of her dreams.
Which of those two are more important to her?
I don't know. I guess
Okay.
I would say the romance.
Okay, so this immediately in my mind, and this may not be where you want to go, but this in my mind is probably one of her biggest challenges in the story. A life versus another kind of life. And behind the scenes is duty obligation.
Well, that's really a forefront in her mind is, you know, how is she going to be able to take care of her brother?
Okay, is that her job?
It's her parents' job
Okay, then why is she taking that on?
because they can no longer do it.
Okay,
They have
So,
they have
okay.
health challenges of their own.
all right. So this is great. So do you see the challenge?
Yes.
How would you state it?
The challenge is having a life of her own versus a life where she has to care for her brother.
Right. This is so common, right? And this is a huge, and here's a source of her anxiety. Okay.
Right.
So who's her opponent? Who wants her not to have her own life?
Her own guilt. No.
Yeah, that's absolutely that's operating. But who in the world wants her to be a caretaker?
Her brother.
Okay. And what's the choice decision she's going to have to come up against?
Yeah. Does she choose the romance or does she choose her brother? Or can she have both?
Okay. Do you see how this is even, again, you know, we've just identified the pieces. Now I know what the story is. So she's dealing with the classic conundrum that's so popular, that's so common today. Am I selfish? Do I go live my life? Or do I sacrifice myself for my brother?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a no-win scenario, but it can be win-win. I just went through this myself. I mean, I know this. I know how this works with someone close who had ALS, who could not move anything, you know, and it just sucks all the air out of everybody's lives. You know, but how do you walk away from that?
Right.
So it's like this is such an important kind of story to tell. So, but here now we see she's about to graduate. We're going to launch you into your life. But I can't, but I want to. And that's the horrible thing she's got to ride through the middle of the story. What does she do? What's her choice going to be? Do you know?
Yes. Actually, she has to abandon the man of her dreams, and she goes home and takes care of her brother, and that's where she ends up starting a relationship with a guy she's known all her life. And he has also known her brother all of his life, and he's especially kind to him. And so it was actually, he was there all along. She just never saw it.
There you go. Perfect.
That sounds great.
There's the middle way, right? You don't want to say that in the log line, but you want
Right.
you want to have this be the impossible choice.
Right.
You know, and that you found a middle ground is beautiful. But that's the essence of your log line.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Joe.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So Jeff, I've just asked everybody to put their various log lines into the Q&A box. Do you want to, if you click the button to the bottom of your screen there and click on the Q&A, do you want to just scroll through and see which ones you think you want to comment on?
Oh my gosh.
I know, there's so many.
I'm going to grab the bottom here. Okay. And then let's just start at the bottom. Oh my gosh, this is great. In a world where the greatest warrior leads the clans, a teenage warrior, heir, must protect herself and her found family from a conspiracy to kill her for political gain. Will she allow her friends to sacrifice themselves in defense of her, or abandon the responsibility that has defined her life? Okay.
Okay, I've just clicked Joanne. Joanne, are you there?
Yep, I took that straight. I listed out my world pro tag and everything, and then
okay, what do you got?
wrote it in there.
Oh, you wrote it in here?
Well, I listed it all out, and then I kind of just put it in a sentence. So theoretically, this should have everything.
Yeah. The last part is the most problematic in that that's pure authorial intrusion. You know, will she allow her friends? You know, that's the author introducing themselves into this.
Yeah, that's the
Get rid of that. That's got to go. Okay, yeah. So the world is, you know, are we in what? What's the time period?
It's a fantasy world, so it's kind of its own time period.
Oh, okay. In another world, I would say, in another world where the greatest warrior leads the clans, what I'm not seeing is a connection between that and what you have next. So in a world where, what is that world? What happens? Warring clans?
So in this world, the leader of the clans is the one that keeps the peace between the clans. And so she's one of the heirs to the leader. And so she has to fight to prove she's the best to become the next leader.
Okay, so in a world where the greatest warrior keeps the peace between warring clans, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that now I see the picture. I understand the context. A teenage warrior who is heir to the throne, however you want to, whatever other words you want to put in there. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Who's trying to kill her?
Yeah, I had the question about organization and stuff. Technically, it's her mother that's trying to kill her. That won't be revealed until the second book, but there is an assassin that is trying to kill her in this book that is one of her guard. But I'm not sure I want to actually tell you that because it's not revealed until the last 5 pages. Kind of.
Well, is this guard essential for the story?
Yes, she is. But for most of the story, the protag thinks she's a friend. She's not an opponent. They're trying to figure out who's trying to kill her.
Okay, yeah, you want to reveal that. You don't want to hold that back.
Okay.
Okay, so what does found family mean?
Her guard is not part of her clan because Because of backstory political reasons, she doesn't have, she's not very accepted. So,
Okay, let's cut to the chase. Why is she being targeted? What is it about her that, is it just because she's next in line?
If she's taken out for political reasons, her mother can start a war with the clans, basically. And again, that's not till book 2.
Okay, that's fine.
But if she's taken out of the picture, it's neutral time before the fight that will decide. And so for political reasons, this, if she is killed, that will start a war that will potentially put her clan on top after she's dead.
Is she related to the greatest warrior?
Yes, her father is the previous leader, and her mother is the leader of her clan.
So who's the greatest warrior? What's his relation?
He's the one that won the fight in the previous generation.
Okay, this is complicated.
Yes, it's very complicated.
But that's a problem, because we have to simplify this. We've got to get down to the core of really what this is about. So what's going to happen at the end?
She is going to decide to protect her guard and her found family by running away from everything. There is a second option that she can run away and not be part of the clans at all anymore.
Okay, so she's going to deny her destiny.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the end. Okay, she must decide whether, like Jessica Jones, whether to run or step up and be a target.
Okay.
That's the end. You don't have to say which one she does, just that she's got this impossible choice. If she stays, she could be killed, or she could run and lose, quote, everything that way, because now she's, there's a name for people who do that, right?
Okay.
Do you agree or disagree?
I agree. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so we're reverse engineering here a little bit. Okay, so who is the one she thinks is trying to kill her?
She thinks it's another one of the clans, like one of her.
Okay, so there is a person who she's going to personify as
Yes.
that. Who she's going to discover is not the one.
Yes.
Right. Who's actually trying to help her?
Okay, so she thinks another clan is trying to kill her. It's actually one of her guard who's been hired by her mother.
Oh, that's fine, but
for the most of the book, she thinks the guard is actually trying to help her. She never thinks the other clan is trying to help her.
So she's going to be betrayed by this person who she's keeping close, giving all this information to.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that's fine. But if she's going to have this other person out there who she thinks is trying to kill her, there's got to be at the end of the book, they've all got to be in the same room, essentially. They've got to be. There's got to be that moment where it's like her doom moment is when she realizes at that 3/4 point where everything all is lost. She realizes she's been wrong about all this.
Yeah.
Okay. This person who I thought was trying to kill me isn't. They're actually trying to help me, but I'm been so blind I can't see it. They end up. I mean, I'm just telling you where this is taking me. Doesn't mean you have to go there. You may have this all written out already. But then she would have to go and find those allies who she had rejected, convince them to reconnect with her, and then they go after the bad guy, who will either get killed. Does he die at the end, or does he get his comeuppance, or does he get away?
He does get his comeuppance, but not until book 2. This is a
Okay.
duology.
So he escapes.
Yeah.
But there's a new equilibrium, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. What happens to the greatest warrior?
Okay, so the greatest warrior is not actually much of a character. He's just the king he's the king, basically. And she's training to fight to become the next king.
Okay, so he's got a little stake in this, doesn't he?
Only sort of. I mean.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to get into structure in the whole story here, but there's a lot going on. There's a lot that's happening. But so the opponent is this other person. You got to personify that person.
Mm-hmm.
And her challenge is obvious. It's, stay alive. But in order to accomplish what? What's the goal? It can't just be to survive.
Okay.
It's got to be to get something, to do something.
Okay.
So you need that clarity. And then everybody else is going to fall in line with that goal over the course of the middle of the story.
Mm-hmm.
But the emotional payoff at the end is that this opponent ends up being more of an ally, and the ally ends up being the opponent that reveals a deeper, complex problem. And you want to try to convey that at the end of the log line, that his escape reveals a deeper conspiracy. You could get away with that vagary here because it's part of a series. Does this help?
Yes, it is. It's helping a lot. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Think in terms of these pieces, how you identify them and what the order is, and write it in that way. And it's going to read a whole lot better, a lot less confusing.
All right, this is great. Do you want to choose one more?
Yeah.
I don't know how you choose out of there. There's so many really good ones. We should maybe do a whole session where everyone just comes and live workshops their log lines. If you guys will be up for that, let me know. And we'll just do a 5-hour session where we'll just try and get everything out of Jeff's head.
A random woman is cursed. I saw blood drenched and I had to read this. A random woman is cursed with blood-drenched immortality. She searches for answers and finds more than she bargained for when the raiders of the apocalypse come calling. Okay, this is pretty high concept.
Okay, so that's Monique. Let me see if I can find Monique. All right, Monique, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi,
hello.
Okay.
This is actually more the log line for the whole series, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
It's a series of 6 books, and well, this is more or less how it the log line for the whole thing, I should think. But I'm very interested to hear what you think about it.
Okay, so this is. I'm glad I picked this because then we can think. So in the same principles apply.
Yeah.
Okay. So a random woman is cursed with blood-drenched immortality. From a structure story perspective, my advice would be never to have somebody get blood-drenched randomly.
Okay.
Okay. There has to be an overarching reason. Why her? Why now?
Yeah.
Okay. That's part of the big payoff at the end of the series, is she discovers why her. Why wasn't it the person down the street? You know?
That is what she does find out at the end of the series.
Okay. And then this is not accurate then. This needs to be this is part of her destiny. Okay. What does blood-drenched immortality mean? Is she a vampire?
No, she's a shapeshifter, and she turns into a massive lion-like animal that basically has to kill to stay sane.
Okay.
And she turns out to be the 5th rider of the apocalypse.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So this is a fun, happy kind of story.
Not really. It's quite very dark fantasy. It's actually kind of been classified as a horror in some of the
absolutely
things on Amazon.
Absolutely, absolutely. So then you would want to say that a woman, you'd want to connect her in some way to this biblical mythology.
Yeah, well, that's a bit of the thing. I've taken it out of the biblical part as well.
So then writers of the apocalypse are from where? Is this today? Is this Earth? Is this
this is Earth? This is Earth, and in it's a bit further on in time. And the writers of the apocalypse are actually in service to Mother Nature to bring back the balance between mankind and nature.
Okay, so it's a happy apocalypse from nature's perspective.
From nature's perspective, not so much from human perspective.
Okay. Well, this is hard. This is hard because I don't know what I don't know. But you'd as a part of this of a series pitch, you'd want to give a sense of where she started, where she's ending, and who is going to go through this series with her. In other words, she will have an opponent of some kind.
Yeah.
That's not it. She can have opponents in each book, for sure, but there needs to be that what they call the sea lion in TV. Yep. It's like in the TV series Dexter. He's a serial killer that kills serial killers. Right? There's the hook. Right? But in the first season, he discovers that there's another serial killer who knows he's doing that. Yeah. So now he's worried because now maybe he's going to become a target. Mm-hmm. That isn't every episode in the first season, but it is always, like the teaser at the end. Yeah. There's this little thing that happens that says this other person's out there watching me, and there's always that presence. That's what you want across every book in the series, is this other presence that she then comes up against at the end of the series. Okay.
Well, that does happen because through the first two books, it's more of an awakening into who she is, or finding out what she is more than anything, or who she is, or coming to terms with the fact that she has to kill to stay sane. And then in book two, a little bit, she gets some hints as to that there's somebody who knows what she is. In book three, she finds out that they're the riders of the apocalypse, and that she is what they call one of the forces of nature. And there's a group called the Watchers, and each force of nature has a group of watchers who more or less take care of them, or at least from a distance, make sure they don't muck things up too much.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You got a lot. You got a lot of the mythology in the world worked out.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't know what you have done and haven't done on this, but just from hearing what I'm hearing, I think you want to move all this stuff up a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Readers are going to want to know about the writers. They're going to want to know about they don't have to know a lot, but they're going to have to know they're there in the background, and that they're. So book one's got to introduce these big overarching patterns that are going to be a part of this. Yeah, I don't know that we can do much here now because this is way too big from a series perspective. I would be less worried about this and more worried about the first book, because you got to get the first book written. And if that's not going to fly, then the series ain't going to go. Mm-hmm. So that book's got to get really nailed, and that book has to establish all the core characters that are going to be going throughout the rest of the series, unless you're designing it so that every book is really standalone and it's not serial in that sense. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's up to you.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, and again, maybe you have all this figured out. I don't know, but really nail that first book and get that log line right, because that's what's going to sell the series.
Okay, right. Yeah, because all the books have actually been written. They've all been published.
Well, then what the heck are we doing here?
Hey, films and TV is the next step. You know, it's on the bucket list. Hey, come on.
Yeah. You got it. Yeah, you've got to.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean, of course, things can't be changed. I mean, you know, that's simple.
Well, I mean, is it self-published or is it
self-published? Self-published.
Okay.
It's the Primal series.
Okay. Because it's a really interesting idea, and you know, you've got my interest. You know. So yeah, this is something, you know, if that's all done, that's really important for me to know, because you really want to get each of those books to have really solid log lines.
Yeah.
Every one of them, you know. And then, yeah, you really do want to get but I have to know what's happening across all the books and who the players are and all of that to really devise a solid log line for the series.
Is there any way we can do that?
Sure, contact me through my website.
Okay.
Jeff at storygeeks.com.
Jeff at storygeeks.com. Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for that. There's one more in there that is just a nice, simple one that I just thought might be a good one to look at. If you go into the Q&A, Jeff, there's one by Patrick that just says, a self-doubting police officer in Chicago goes undercover to find his partner's killer, only to find himself framed for murder. Let's see if Patrick's there. Patrick, are you still here?
A self-doubting police officer in Chicago goes undercover to find his partner's killer, only to find
I think we've lost Patrick.
For murder. Oh, that's too bad. Are you there, Patrick?
No, I think he's gone.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Okay, let's do one more. There's one by Kathleen Shea. Kathleen is still here. I can see that she's just added it. Do you see the one about the private school?
Yes.
Okay. Kathleen, I've just clicked you. Are you there? Kathleen, are you there?
Hi. I think I've got you now. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we've got Jeff.
Oh, good. Hello.
Hi there. Okay,
so this will be our last one, and then we'll wrap it up for the evening.
Okay, so
sounds good.
You've just heard a bunch of people go through this process.
Yes. Yes.
How would you change this? What do you see here that you would do differently?
I'm not sure. I was listening, and I wrote this actually as we were going through this. I never even, I did this on a whim because just as a part of the process. I'm editing it right now, and it's like, I don't know, because there's really two, like the subplot, the one subplot's kind of a red herring. You think the murder is connected to her being framed for all these things, including a classmate being poisoned, and it's not. It's actually, there's another, the actual person who evil, her antagonist is not the person who committed the murder. He's actually framing the guy who actually murdered the nurse. So he's like a spider on his web kind of scenario. I'm not quite sure how to quite boil it down. I've got it to this point, but I'm not quite sure where to go from here. I'm not gonna lie.
So what's at stake for her?
Just being expelled from the school and losing her new friends that she's never had really close friends before now, and now and a boyfriend now, which she's never really had any of these things, and she's developed all these close relationships as she's gone to her new school. And then she'd lose the contact with all of them and be forced to go back to a crappy public school back home from her home state.
So there we have the end. Okay, this is the choice this is the decision choice she has to make.
Right.
So the world is really clear.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a religious school? Is it Catholic school?
No, it's just a public. It's just a private school. I didn't make it religious. I just had it as a kind of I did some research and looked up private schools, and it's just kind of this generic private school I created, you know, for the plot.
So,
I made
so
it. I made
is
it.
Is it in suburbia? Is it in an urban center?
It's in a city. It's in a city-like environment.
Okay, so in a cityfied private school. Okay, so in an urban private school, a shy 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Becomes is threatened with expulsion after being implicated in a series of murders.
No, it starts out with a beer can in a classroom, and then it escalates to a classmate getting poisoned who had been harassing her.
So why isn't she in jail?
Because there is no proof that she did it, and it was such circumstantial evidence that they put her on probation. Though they did put her on probation.
Okay, so a shy 16-year-old girl finds herself on probation after being implicated in a series of dangerous, whatever, I don't know. Incidents.
I would say,
and must find the culprit before she is expelled by the person who's out to get her, and must choose between
retreating, not, I guess she has to choose whether or not if she wants to have to go back to public school, crappy public school, and, not understanding why this happened to her. And
but she has to decide to stay where she is and be visible, or recede back into this horrible public school, horrible life.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very lonely life.
Does that we I think kind of quickly we kind of stated the pieces,
Yeah. I mean, there's of course, obviously more to it, but of course, Loglines are supposed to just boil it down as best you can.
Right. But I would want to see further on this. I would want to see what the danger is. What are the her stakes? How is this going to ratchet up? I mean,
that is, I think, the only thing that I'm really I think I'm really gotten very far with this, but it is seeming as we're going through this, I'm seeing that the her choice and the stakes are kind of still a little, they're even though the everything that happens does ratchet up, but
they're not very compelling.
No, it's not getting. I mean, it's getting to the point where she is about ready to be probably thrown in jail, but there does need to be some solidification for certain things, obviously.
Yeah, like somebody's died, right?
Yeah.
Find the body of the nurse.
She was kidnapped by the cheerleader. They hazed her. They pulled a kind of a carry on her and dumped blood on her and everything just because boys were talking to her. Her friends saved her. They were heading back to the school party, and they come across the body of one of the school nurses.
Yeah.
And then chaos erupts from there.
But she's, you've got this set up. She's got to be the one who's being framed for the murder. Otherwise, that killing has to be connected to her. Otherwise, what's the point?
I see what you are saying. It's
I know, but I'm just saying this.
This
is what you have set up. Yeah, this is the setup.
I see what you're saying. Because there is she's going through all these things, and they think it is connected to the murder, but in the end it isn't. And it's. I see what you're saying. I'm going to have to analyze it because
because that's the middle. That is somebody's out to get her. The police. There's more evidence now. There's you can't explain where you were. Blah blah blah. It's all got to just start building and building and building. And it's not just that she's going to get expelled. She's going to going to go to juvie.
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, that's the threat.
Mm-hmm.
So we come back to the question at the end then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's a shy 16-year-old. What does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah, she's just.
That implies that she's going to become unshy, but that's going to have to mean I'm going to do the press conference. I'm going to, she's got to step up and be the opposite of what she is at the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
So she's got to be somebody who's going to put herself on the line. And at the beginning of the story, she's somebody who would never, ever, ever, ever think about doing that. So we see we see what the change is in her, right?
Right.
There's a thing about stories when they call them character arcs, right? There's never a character arc.
Right.
Characters don't ever change in arcs. It's more like a heart attack. It's up and down. But they end the story different. And as soon as you know how they're ending the story differently, that tells you how they have to begin the story.
Mm-hmm.
If they're going to learn how to be brave at the end, they have to be cowards at the beginning. If they're going to learn how to love at the end, they have to not be somebody who can love at the beginning. I mean, it's kind of stupid to say that, but
no, I mean, she's sort of like that at the beginning.
She's got to be somebody who doesn't want to engage, who doesn't want to be involved, who doesn't,
Yes.
But what I'm saying is the really critical piece here, though, that we've uncovered is the murder has to be connected to her. Otherwise, there's no story. You've got two separate things going on.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean,
sorry.
Yeah, I'll definitely. It's very difficult because I have it all, done out and everything. And it's definitely.
This is why.
It's so hard to do in a pitch kind of environment.
I know. And this is the dark side of this, is that what happens invariably, all the bigger story structure issues get revealed because of basic questions I'm asking. And a lot of people have done what everybody does. They just write. So a lot of you have your stuff already pretty much written for the most part. This is why I say stop writing. Develop first, then write.
Problem is that's not how my brain works, unfortunately.
I understand, and some people just can't do that. But I strongly suggest for you to rewire your brain.
Unfortunately, that's easier said than done. I'm proud to say, but it was extremely, extremely helpful. I thank you very much for picking mine to read aloud. I thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Kathleen, and thank you, Jeff. We're going to end it there. We've gone 40 minutes over time. And there's still 50 people hanging around. So thank you, everybody that stuck around. I know there's still 30 different log lines in the Q&A that we could have got through. So I'm going to try and set up another session so we can go through some more, and maybe we just workshop them all live, because even learning about everybody else's log lines, I've learned so much about how to use my own and what's missing right now.
Cool.
Thank you so much. And everybody, you can find Jeff over at storygeeks.com. And we'll see you again next time. Thanks again, Jeff. Bye.
Thank you very much. Had a great time. Thank you.